Final Fantasy 15 patch update 1.10 is now live! Yay! But as the update itself was so sparse, this video is going to be all about the survey that was added into the game alongside the patch, and it can be accessed from the title screen. Now, you'll have to excuse the slightly facetious title of the video, but seriously, once I start running through the various options presented by the survey, you may well start to feel the same way, because it does start to feel a lot like a list of content that they ended up having to shelve in order to release the game on time. I mean, I'd like to think that the options they're presenting in this survey are at least partially planned already, and that they aren't proposing content that would then have to be shoehorned in, but I guess you never know. Don't mistake my facetious title for a lack of excitement about the potential here though, because the options they're presenting seem pretty awesome. And it makes it a really tough survey because you can only pick one option. Yes, one option. And there isn't an all of the above option either. They really want you to think about what's most important for you. Be warned though that due to the nature of this survey, this video is going to be very heavy on the spoilers. And with that, I'm just going to dive straight in. First up, we have the different story scenarios that they're looking to expand. There are 7 options here, and the top billing is something that Hajime Tabata has already teased in the past on a few separate occasions, an expansion of Ardyn's past. This is something that I feel would appeal to a lot of people. Ardyn was one of the strongest characters in Final Fantasy 15, but despite some of the story exposition around his motivations and his past, we could definitely have done with a lot more. There were just so many questions around what happened in the past between him, the Crystal, and anyone else who was around at the time. And by the time Final Fantasy 15's plot takes place, Ardyn has become bitter and twisted, so it would be rather interesting to get a different perspective on how things played out in his past. That is, of course, assuming that this story expansion would take place around the time of his rejection. It could instead focus on his time infiltrating the Niflheim Empire and manipulating Idolus Aldercapt, or it could focus around his relationship with the Astrals. Next up, we have an expansion around Lunafreya's activities. Now, the assumption here would be that this would shed more light into Lunafreya's role after Kingsglaive and her various interactions with the Astrals. I can't say too much more than that, but I think it would be pretty clear-cut what this would be about. Then we have the expansion into Core's activities. Now, this is something that would have been very much expected in the build-up to Final Fantasy 15. Core was, of course, meant to be one of the playable characters, but the decision was taken to diminish his role in the story to only a handful of sequences. It meant there were a lot of questions left around his activities. What was he doing the whole time? I mean, we get little snippets of information here and there, but I think it would be pretty cool to see what he was actually doing to thwart the Empire while Noctis and his buddies are off doing their thing. The fourth option is rather intriguing to say the least, as it proposes an expansion into the line of the Lucis. It's intriguing because outside of Noctis, Regis and whoever was around at the time of Ardyn in the past, we know very little about the prominent royal bloodline that features in Final Fantasy 15's story. And I'm curious to see how this would deviate from the previous expansion related to Ardyn's past. I mean, I don't really know what they would do here, but I think it's rather intriguing. Something that's also been spoken about a lot in passing is Ifrit's Betrayal. This is an area that could definitely use expansion, and I'd be interested to see if it plays out how people think it will. We may also get to learn a lot more about the Star Scourge if they choose to go with this option. The penultimate story option on the survey is the World of Ruin. This again is something that people have been craving, and it has served as a general area of frustration as when Noctis returns, so much has changed, but we don't really get to see it for ourselves. It's great that we have Talcott to fill us in, but it would have been so much better if we could explore and interact with characters like Iris, Cindy and Aranea to see how much they've changed over time. It would have also been great if we could have ventured out and seen how Lestalem has changed and even just look at the world. I mean, you drive past so much and you see so many enemies, but you can't interact with them, and I think that's something that was really missing with the World of Ruin. Last up is more content around Noctis' disappearance. Now, this could relate to what Noctis experienced during the 10-year spell, but it could equally be about what everyone else was up to during this time, which I feel would be just as interesting. Now, after the story expansion, the survey then moves on to options around playable characters. It's familiar suspects here, so there's nothing too surprising. Core, as we mentioned, was supposed to be playable anyway, and combat animations are already established due to his role within the main game itself, and also with episode Gladiolus. The The same also applies to Iris and Aranea, who of course appear as guest characters as you play through the main story. Tabata had previously said in the Final Fantasy XV Ultimania that these characters would all be playable in the multiplayer expansion, but as they're in this poll, perhaps they're also looking to expand things even further. Lunafreya was of course meant to be a guest character, but this was ultimately removed from the game, and it would also certainly be interesting to see Gentiana as a playable character. Would she get to use some of her powers perhaps? I think that would be so cool. The final options in this survey relate to modes and gameplay changes. First up, there's the coveted hard mode, which people have been requesting for quite a while. However, as you can only vote for one option, I feel as though this one is just going to end up being overlooked. I feel as though it's being requested by the fanbase as it's something that should have been included when they added New Game Plus, but would people want hard mode instead of some of the proposed story content? I'm not so sure. If they're going to add in hard mode, I think it's something that should be done in addition as opposed to instead of, but I mean, we don't really know what the aim of the survey is. It could be that they're going to be adding multiple things as opposed to just one, and they want to just see how important things are to people. I feel the same applies to the other options they presented within this poll, which relate to gameplay. Is better armature options really that much of a compelling change for people? And is there much of a drive for stat changing magic? I mean, sure, if they were just going to add them in as part of a patch, I wouldn't say no, but I can't see these two options getting that many votes because they're just not that exciting. So that's the survey in a nutshell. It's pretty extensive and it's a lot more than I was actually anticipating. I think it's rather interesting that they're going for so many different story options. And also that they've chosen the ones they have because they clearly have been paying attention. They know that this is what people are craving, and I think they just want some assurance about which options they go for, because Tabata's spoken in the past about how they have to really monitor their resource and they can only focus on certain things. But I mean, are you guys excited for the proposed changes? And which is the option that you will be voting for? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. If you'd like to support our channel, please feel free to head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/FFunion. These folks have already done so, so why not join them? And you can also get badges and even suggest video topics for us to cover. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. This is Daryl signing out. I'll see you next time.